A warm hello to all of you watching this video and marking Vocation Sunday. Each year, Vocation Sunday is important. It's a special day to focus on how God calls people to join in what God's doing in the world. Actually, every Sunday is a kind of Vocation Sunday, and every day is another opportunity for us to open ourselves to God and to hear how we are called to be part of God's mission. There's God's call to each one of us individually and personally, but sometimes God can use us to help others hear God's call to them. As we look around the people around us, the people in our church community, we might see people who we think God might be calling to serve in particular ways. If we are prepared to have a conversation with those people about that possibility, that might turn out to be the very way in which they hear God's voice. Being called by God is no guarantee of an easy life. Responding to God's call can be challenging. God calls some people to be ordained. In Matthew's Gospel, we read the story in which Jesus tells his disciples to feed the crowd of 5,000 people. They were shocked and horrified and had no idea where on earth they would get enough food for such a mob. People often feel the same kind of reaction when they first sense God's call to be ordained. Who, me? I can't do that. I couldn't possibly. I don't have what it takes. But like the biblical story, those called to ordination, to lead and feed God's people, eventually find that God provides all they need and more. You might know the Old Testament story where Jacob wrestles with a man only to discover that he was actually wrestling with God. Some who are called to be ordained and to other ministries experience an inner wrestling with fears about how it might all turn out. You might feel like that now. I encourage you to talk with your priest or someone you trust in your church community about how you feel and what you're thinking. You might also know the story of the Transfiguration. It's another story of mysterious encounter with God in which people feel overwhelmed with a sense of God's presence and glory and power. Sometimes people are waiting for that kind of encounter with God before they respond to a sense of call. But it doesn't always happen in that kind of way. If you think God's call always comes in an overwhelming, unmistakable kind of way, and because that hasn't happened to you, then you can't be called by God, if you think like that, then I encourage you to widen your view. God is also present and speaks to us in the simple, beautiful things of life. In bread broken and wine shared, in the faces of friends in your church, in the small acts of kindness and service you see. God calls us through those things, not just through the spectacular or miraculous, through the everyday. Maybe God is calling you to something now. Check it out. And every blessing to you and your faith community.